Hi, everybody. So it's been a while, I think. I don't actually know. I don't remember. I live in a vortex that time has no meaning. But I think it's been a while since I've done a video. So I thought I would recap sort of my 2L year first semester, which is crazy because that means that at the end of the semester, I'll be halfway done with my law school career, which, yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. But it doesn't feel like I've been here that long, but I guess I have. That's what the calendar says. Um, so 2L year, your second year of law school, is so much fun because it's, unlike 1L year, we kind of know what we're doing. We know how to read a case and pull out the important things. We know how to use the resources. We know how to build an outline before the day before your final. Um, and then also, you get to choose electives for your classes. So instead of being assigned, oh, everybody takes torts, everybody takes contracts, you get to choose. We don't get to choose Con Law 2. That was forced upon us. But I ended up liking it, so that's okay. But the other classes, generally, you get to choose your elective. And some of us are very smart and choose classes based on the bar exam, which I keep telling myself I will do. But this semester, I figured I was taking Con Law 1 and Professional Responsibility, aka Ethics. And I figured those would be kind of boring, so I was like, I'm not going to take wills and trusts now. I'll do that later. But then it turned out that Con Law 2 was actually really fun, and PR is not that bad, so I probably could have done that, but I didn't. Anyway, what I did take, so I got Con Law 2 again, which I'm going to take a moment to say how much I love it, just in case anyone watching is maybe a 1L who wants to take Professor Bartram, or anyone else wants to take Professor Bartram for literally anything. Bartram's amazing. Our professor, he loves the Constitution, or maybe not the Constitution itself, but he loves the study of the Constitution, and he loves the theory of the Constitution. So we'll be talking, and all of a sudden he's like referencing Plato or John Locke or something, which is just fun. And then if I ask a question like, hey, how come, in this instance the dissent was saying this, but then in this instance it was whatever else, and then not only will he have an answer, which is actually already pretty impressive because in Con Law, like, it's just a mess. But he's excited about it. Like, he's genuinely so excited, more excited than I am, which if you know me, that says quite a bit. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun just getting to know him and asking him questions. And then I'm also taking, what am I taking on Tuesdays and Thursdays? I'm taking, Hotel, Resorts, and Casino Law, which is about hotels, resorts, and casinos, which is interesting because I'm in it, mostly because with the human trafficking thing, I know some exploitation can happen in those arenas, so I kind of want to know the hotel's perspective so that I can sue them or get them to do things differently. Like, I'm kind of imagining myself being in opposition to them most of the time. But the professor is teaching the course under the assumption, I think, that we're all want to work for the hotels, resorts, and casinos, which is very obvious because she keeps talking about how, so when you're general counsel, da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like, no. So it kind of feels like I'm spying on, behind enemy lines if I'm being really dramatic about it. And then I'm also taking, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm also taking trial advocacy, which is a very practical course that's just, how do you do examinations of witnesses? How do you admit evidence? How do you give an opening or a closing? So most of that, like definitely as far as the mechanics go, I know from mock trial. So that's awesome. I don't have to really stress over remembering all the steps of an impeachment, even though I'm not perfect with impeachments, but I technically know them, so it's fine. More of this is just kind of fine-tuning things, and also getting some perspectives that are more based in the real world and not just in kind of mock trial land, because there are differences. So that's been really fun, and our final exam for that class is a mock trial, which I'm so excited about. And then I'm also taking, again, PR or ethics, which is kind of disconcerting. Like, I'm afraid that I'm going to break a rule and not know it. But a lot of them are kind of vague enough that maybe I can argue about it, and except there's probably case law somewhere that says, actually, in this case, da-da-da-da-da, which is even scarier because I don't know all the case law. So I don't know what to make of this class. And then, finally, I'm taking criminal procedure, which is by far my favorite class. It's so much fun. It's Crim Pro 1, which is focused on police procedure, so what the police can and can't do, which is mostly focusing on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments, I think. And the textbook's great, which actually is impressive. It's very very efficient, I think, at saying, okay, here's a rule, here's a case, without making you read through the entire thing all the time. That may not make any sense, but it's good. It's good. That's a good thing. And the professor, though, he cares so much about this subject, and he cares so much that we have a correct understanding. So what I appreciate about that is just the clarity that he brings. For instance, as a 1L, maybe this is because we were 1Ls and people wanted to have mercy, but what would happen a lot in like my torts class or something is the professor would call on someone, or someone raise their hand and they give an answer, and the professor says, oh yeah, and then they say something else entirely, and they're like, this is what, and so then I'm sitting there trying to take notes, and I'm like, wait, so was the student right and the professor's right? Because that's literally what kind of happened. Or is the professor too nice to say, no, you're wrong, this is what's going on? But this professor for criminal procedure, someone will say something and he'll be like, okay, all of that was right, except for this one word should really be this. And I'm like, great, okay, that makes sense, I got it. And then it's fun because I'll go to his office hours and present something. He'll be like, okay, all of it's right except this. I'm like, all right, but what about this? And then he's like, yeah, that's right. So you kind of work together to build your understanding of the rules, which is just a great experience, and it's interactive and fun, and you remember things better. So yeah, criminal procedure, love it. It's great. Pro tip to all of the 1Ls watching, or 2Ls who are still struggling with stuff, because let's face it, we are. Flashcards are great for the case names, even if the professor says you don't need to know the case names, because it still will help you sort of like organize and remember the rules and the holdings for each case. So I bring that up just to say that I've been having a lot of fun with Quizlet in random places, because Quizlet's great for me. So aside from classes, I'm also I'm on Journal now, which is an experience. Journal is, part of it's really fun because you're producing something, and in law school world, except for the exams themselves, you don't spend a lot of time producing things. Mostly just input information, and you feel like your brain's going to explode, and you never really get the satisfaction of being like, here's what I've created. Outlines, kind of, you can be like, oh, I made this outline, but not really. Whereas with Journal, there are really two responsibilities, at least if you're kind of a junior staffer, which is what I am, is one, going through and making sure all the citations are correct with our Blue Book. So that's just kind of like if you were to go over someone's paper and make sure their MLA citation, like the format was right and all the parts of that citation were there. So that's kind of a bit boring, but you do it. But then the source stack is both way harder but also more rewarding, because you literally print out a copy of every source in a citation in an article, and you highlight like what the source is. If that makes sense. So if someone's quoting from a book, you print out that page of the book and like the title page so that people know what you're talking about, and you highlight what they're quoting and it's like, hey, this is from this footnote. So what's fun about that is that by the end of the kind of week of working on the article, you got the stack that you've made. It's your source stack. So it's fun. I'm just not great at Journal, which would be fine if it didn't affect the team on Journal. We have to go back and fix my mistakes. So I'm trying to work on that. There are lots of rules that I guess I'm just not good at keeping in my head all at once. But I mean, it's definitely good practice for being, paying attention to detail and staying on track of the timeline, especially because there was one time that I got sick and then I had to try to order this book, and then it just turned into a disaster because time. But that's Journal. And then I'm also, the best part really of my second year so far is mock trial. I'm on the school's mock trial team, which has been a dream since high school. It's kind of crazy that it's actually coming true. And we competed in Florida in early October, and I know it confused some of my Facebook friends because I posted pictures in late October, but we actually went early October, and I was just really lazy about posting the pictures. But yeah, so we competed in Florida, and it was kind of crazy because all the teams there were like super fancy, and then we roll in and we've got like one printout of one exhibit that's like the lamination is peeling off by the end of it. We're just like, here we go. And then there's these other teams where they have their like 7 printouts, which is very expensive, and it's like framed. They're like, look at this, and we're like, wow. The team that actually, they won the entire thing, they had a binder printed out for their opposing counsel. They're like, here guys, as we go through all of our exhibits, you can just refer to them in this binder so you know what we're talking about. We're like, Thanks. Thanks so much for that. So, yeah. So we went against that team. That was actually the first time that I and my co-counsel were attorneys. In the previous round, we were witnesses. Oh my gosh, actually, as a witness. So this team that we went against there, they couldn't advance because they were from the school that made the packet. So they were just kind of there filling in because someone else canceled, I think. So they didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and they also couldn't have won anyway. So like they weren't trying that hard. But they're cross-examining me when I'm playing a witness on the plot of Sharknado, because they think that if I'm lying about Sharknado, I could be lying about everything. And like, I've never seen Sharknado, and I realize that the plot is not terribly cerebral, but when I realized what was happening, what he was doing was trying to cross me, I'm like, you know what? All right, let's have fun with this. So he kept asking me questions about it. I'm like, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. Until finally he's like so frustrated. And I say, okay, the reason that I don't remember the plot of Sharknado, and I just launch into this impassioned thing about how like that was when the victim was like shot like right next door to my house, and it was really traumatic and blah 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 blah. And so they, as the defense, are like, stop talking, but they can't because they asked for it. So that was fun. Anyway, but then yeah, so when I was an attorney for the next round, then that was giving the closing argument in that case. Like the whole case was fun. That team was good, and I felt like we were fairly evenly matched. Maybe not on all of the kind of like fine-tuned mechanics of it, because they definitely were just more polished. Is kind of the word that we use. They were just more polished. But I think our theory of the case was stronger, and the way that we kind of synthesized it was stronger, which one of the judges actually alluded to in my closing argument, which he was pointing out that my argument, yeah, just, kind of like made sense of the case really well, and that we should like structure everything around the way that I laid it out there. So that was basically the most kind of like lost myself in the moment I've ever been with mock trial. Normally I'm hyper aware that it's a competition and it's kind of a drama, but in this moment I was like, yeah, I'm gonna argue for my clients. My client's absolutely innocent. The case can't prove it. The state can't prove anything. Like, what is this? And so that was just kind of a fun experience. And then I got to visit family in Florida. Shout out to Nana and Aunt Jill. It was amazing. They gave me frozen yogurt, which is great. Went to Universal Studios and visited the small part of it that we could afford to visit, which was also great. Yeah, so mock trial. That was amazing, and I'm super excited for the spring, because not only will I get to compete again, but also we'll get the new 1Ls moving up into our team as the current 3Ls graduates. We get the new like wave of recruits. And personally, one of my favorite parts of mock trial, I've realized, is kind of helping other people figure out how to do it. Not to say that I'm that good, but what I do know, I have a lot of fun sharing and like talking to other people about. So yeah. Okay, that's mostly school. As far as job things, that's actually going pretty well, I think. It's going really well. So in the spring, I'm going to be interning with the Attorney General's office, and then in the summer, I'm going to be interning with the District Attorney's office of Clark, somewhere, and then in the fall, I'm going to be externing with the U.S. Attorney's office, which all of those are like great places to work with, and the weird thing is that they're all prosecutorial, and I kind of want to try some defense stuff. And I've given myself only one like slot. So any defense stuff I do will have to fit into my like my second semester 3L year, but that's okay. Very excited about that. And then also, as just a more like personal update, so my church that I've been going to, Hope Church, I've gotten plugged in with the youth group there. It's called Converge. I help co-lead a group of 7th grade girls, and it's so much fun. And these girls are smart and kind and funny, and I love them already. I can't wait to get to know them more, especially because the way that Converge is set up is ideally, basically, I and my co-leader will stay with this group of girls as they kind of grow up throughout the youth group, instead of getting bounced around with 2 different small groups. So we'll get to really develop some longer term relationships with them. That's awesome. I'm also, those of you from Whitney back home might laugh at this, but I'm doing lyrics at the church here, because they also use ProPresenter, which I'm like, I know how to do ProPresenter, but the way that they do it here is like this crazy system where you've got like So we got the nest at home, right, where you like sit in the back and you kind of like advance the PowerPoint. But here you've got like a nest in the back, but you also have a whole separate, I call it the war room, because you go into this room and it's like monitor, 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 and this guy like clicking between different monitors, and you're at the computer like be like, all right guys, we've got a quote coming up. He's like 2 slides, and he's like, okay, got it, because then he's got to tell the camera people like, hey guys, we have a quote coming up, so they know if they like need to zoom in on the pastor or like watch the screen with the quote. Like it's a really really complex system they have. Then it feels like you're at war. And then they let me actually they had no choice but to let me run one of the cameras once because someone else was sick or family emergency or something. So like, Gabrielle, do you want to just jump on that camera over there? I'm like, sure. So I'm like at this stool with the camera trying to keep the crosshairs on the pastor, which all I can say is that growing up playing Call of Duty and Star Wars Battlefront with my brothers really paid off because I'm really good at keeping the crosshairs on this like highly energetic pastor who's just like moving around. So Hope, yeah, that's Hope. I've also started going to a church right across the street from my apartment, also on Sundays, but earlier on the day, and it's El Camino de la Cruz, and it's a Spanish-speaking church, so I get to I'm still too much of a coward to practice speaking very much Spanish, but I definitely hear it because the whole sermon is in Spanish. And I got a little Spanish Bible that was given to me by someone there. Not a little, it's actually like it's not one of those, just New Testament and the Psalms. Like it's a whole Bible in Spanish and English, so it's great. So that's been really fun. I can't always go because mock trial practice is usually right then, but hopefully that will change. So yeah, okay, that's church and law school, which is pretty much my life besides like writing things. Which is a side note. All of this writing stuff that I've been doing has been very helpful for my Crim Pro class because we just hit like the Miranda rights and custodial interrogation and all this stuff, which I already know about because I did a bunch of random research on how you can tell if someone's been detained or if it's a custodial arrest or not, or if it's a custodial interrogation. Like I know. I don't know all the cases, but I know how to recognize it. So that's fun. Okay. This is like 17 minutes long, so I'm gonna cut it off, and I love you all, and hopefully we'll see you at least Christmas. So yeah, bye everybody. Happy November.